All right. Presented by Under Armour and Sleeper Fantasy. Welcome to Light Years. Andy Lou, a much needed professional win from the Warriors tonight. They are officially over 500, 26-25, 129, 107 win over the Utah Jazz. And is that 6 in a row now?
Five
in a row. Yeah, they are. I don't even know how to quantify it. Just they feel back. They feel like the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, you took it. You said it. They feel like the Warriors. Everything that they're doing is something that we've talked about for I don't know what. How long have we been doing this? 10 years. Everything, right? The defense looks great. Guys are staying in front of guys. Wiggins is back defensively. Draymond's awesome. We talked about that. Then on the other side, tonight's lead is probably Klay Thompson with 26. Like that's just classic Klay. Like he's making his mid-range shots. He's getting those threes to fall. Hits a dagger at the end. Like it's just like the script. The script is the exact same Warrior script that we've seen when the Warriors are good. So there's really, I should say, there's no surprise about how they're winning when they're well. It's just surprising to see this because they haven't played like this in so long. That's all. Because early in the season, I was watching
over a year.
Yeah, I was watching this first quarter. It's like they just don't.
Hey, move your mic.
No, it's the camera. I told you. Like so, I fucking told you. So it's like like how they were doing in the season is that they would be up by 20 in these games. They played no defense, right? They played no defense. And what you're seeing now is even if they go up by 8, I don't really care. Because they're playing great defense. Like it's not about them allowing 35 points early. That's fine. Right now, if the defense is great earlier in the season, it's like they go up by 20, but they're not stopping anyone. So that's really to me, that's really the big key in these games.
Yeah, I mean, you are correct. Like, defense is the real identifier of this team in general. Another strong defensive game tonight with Draymond in foul trouble, by the way. 3 fouls in the first 5 minutes, Super Bowl hangover, classic. But also classic Draymond. Once he got past that, he just locked in. It didn't really matter the rest of the way. Got to give Wiggins some credit, too. I think Wiggins' defense has picked up since Draymond came back in general. And then just up and down the roster. Like the one that's always surprising me is Lester Quinones. You know, I knew he could shoot it a little bit. I knew he could it kind of get hot, but I did not know he had that ability defensively. Like he's really getting into guys. He's really using his quickness and athleticism to guard the ball. Is he an amazing defender? No, but I feel comfortable when he's in the rotation now, which is probably not something I would have said 2 months ago.
Yeah, the Lester stuff is interesting. I guess we can that one's interesting. I didn't know he could come up. I didn't know he could play that well, just overall, but it hurts my heart that Moody, that he's essentially taken Moody's run, and I kind of get it. Like he can dribble, but he can dribble better. He's more of a point guard than Moody. You kind of want 2 ball handlers, and Moody's slower than him, right? So I mean, it's good for him. It's good for him. It scares me a little bit because it's like, does Chris Paul just take all his run? I assume. Does Lester just go back on the bench? So, but he's playing well. Like the energy is crazy with these young guys, man. They put Lester out there with pods. Then you got Kuminga, Klay, and who's the other guy? TJD, who played well tonight. You put those guys together. That's a lot of energy. It's a lot for these games like this, like mid-February. It's not like it's a national TV game, so these guys are kind of going through the motions. But when you got these kids that are playing for the NBA careers, man, it's pretty cool to see them kind of run by Lauri Markkanen, who, like, I don't know, did he look great tonight? No, he kind of was just whatever out there. No. And so it's kind of nice to see.
It is, and we're in some ways we're bearing the lead. No Steve Kerr there tonight. He went to Serbia for Decky's funeral. Also, no Zaza, no Ron Adams, still Chris DeMarco. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone else, but a sizable contingent of like Warriors staff.
Everyone. Wow.
Yeah, not Kenny, not Bruce Frazier. I mean, they got a lot of coaches.
Do they have a lot more than other teams? Is that?
Yeah, they do. Oh. I don't know if they have the most of any team, but like if you were to say, are they towards the top in terms of number of coaches? The answer is They're definitely on the higher end of
So,
the spectrum.
so Lacob's paying, however much he's paying for the team to be 500, and they're paying the most coaches in the league for a 500
And
team.
and they
Joe
probably pay
Lacob,
more. They probably pay more for assistants than other teams because there's
man,
just the cost of living component,
man.
Like lower level assistants and development guys don't get paid crazy money. They get paid normal people money. Normal people money in Oklahoma City or in Houston, you live a lot better than what that money might get you in San Francisco. So, I
What do you think is
imagine
like
they pay
3x? What do you think 3x? Two at least 2x, right? You'd at least have to make 2x for normal people pay. Like let's say you make 100,000 in OKC, you probably got to be paid 250 in the Bay. I think that's kind of
that's a little extreme, but like that is kind of that is probably the calculus. Like
right.
you can't just pay someone like 110 in the city and like
I don't mean
expect it to be as competitive,
right.
Like there are just costs. Anyway, it's a different conversation. Did you think there was anything different about Kenny coaching the team tonight?
Is that what we're doing right off the bat?
Obviously, I mean, look, man. And they're in Utah where it happened, which has got to be weird. Staying in the same hotel. They did not go to dinner at the same spot, which I don't think surprises anyone. But you know, in general, did you? My main takeaway was I didn't think it looked all that different from like the rotations were just as scripted as they always are. But did you think it looked different than when Steve coached the team?
I don't think so, right? We kind of. I mean, I thought it'd be funny if it did. I threw a kind of a jokey tweet out like, "Hey, TJD and Moody playing the second," which they did. I mean, they threw TJD and Moody there, but they also weren't really in the rotation. So maybe you can say Kenny did a little adjustment, but we don't know if it was scripted or not in the second half. But they did play a pretty good amount there in the fourth quarter, in the middle of the fourth quarter. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought maybe that's like an in-game adjustment from Kenny Atkinson, but also it's like Draymond got in foul trouble, right? So part of that was maybe kind of just his feel for the game. But it's about the same, man. It's one game, right? Steve's going to be back next game. How much could he really change? I find it funny though, because I bet you Kenny Atkinson was juiced. Because I'm telling you, Sam, if Steve's not going to be the coach next year, it's going to be him. It's going to be him. So I was curious to see
I think Steve's going to be the coach next year. I've pivoted my take a little bit, but maybe I'm being reactionary in the moment.
Is Klay back? Is Klay back next year too then?
After tonight? But, what I was going to say is, I mean, Kenny is a head coach. Right. He's overqualified for this role. And he's kind of doing the Mike Brown thing, smart of Kenny not to go to Charlotte. Don't look like he's missing out on, career-changing moves there, right? So,
Charlotte.
but I will say the one thing that stood out to me was they did shoot the ball more confidently. They felt a little more comfortable shooting the ball. I just don't know if that's a Kenny thing or a Utah Jazz thing, Like, it's easy to be like, oh, Steve wasn't in Pod's head. He's willing to let it go. We're willing to shoot it a little bit. Or the Utah Jazz just suck defensively. Could just be that too.
I don't think you're reaching. I think that's a fair thing. I mean, we would need a much larger sample size. Maybe Kenny. Yeah. But I do think like for role player stuff, that makes sense. I think Steve is so good at getting role play. I mean, dude, Steve's the guy that has Lester and all those guys super confident. But one thing that's always been these role guys coming to Golden State and they've struggled with is shooting because they're so busy trying to. I mean, what were you saying, right? They're so busy trying to figure out the offense, figure out the passing, but some of these guys
gotta make the perfect fucking pass at all times.
It's hard.
It is hard.
I mean, like Moses Moody, I thought was the funniest guy tonight. Just real quick, because he's obviously not getting much run. He went 0 for 8 in 9 minutes. Dog, he didn't pass a single time tonight. So I just thought that that was hilarious. I thought that was pretty funny.
He's pressing, man. You can. They don't play me. Yep. I don't get opportunities. I got to get them up to show that I can play a little bit. Like
I know. I feel bad.
I really think he can help this team, and he can help a lot of teams. And why do you think it is he doesn't? Like you said it, Lester's a better ball handler than him and a little quicker. That makes sense. I think the other aspect of it is he kind of does what Wiggins, Kuminga, and Klay do. Like he's not a passer by trait. He's kind of like a scorer wing who can guard a couple positions. But of the 4 guys I listed, he's the worst at it. Like just being fair about it. Like Wiggins, Kuminga, Klay, they're all a little more versatile than him, a little higher upside than him. And Steve and this coaching staff, for whatever reason, is just hesitant to play too many of those guys at the same time because they want guys who move the ball more.
Yeah, GP2's back now too, right? And
Mhm.
that's kind of part of it. If you want to downsize a little bit,
Another, yeah,
right? It's kind of, somebody brought this up. I saw this, Brooklyn. When they traded for a bunch of those wing guys, they had Royce O'Neal's gone now, but Royce O'Neal, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, they just have like 4 or 5 of the same dudes, and it's
yeah,
just that doesn't work in lineups because you just can't have guys that can't dribble all play together.
right.
Which is, I think
Everyone
that's
wants those type of wings, but there is a point where having
yep.
too many of them on the floor, it's like, okay, but like who's handling? All right, who's creating an advantage in any capacity?
I think right now Moody not playing makes a lot more sense to me than it did last season and early in the season, right? Like that's right now it makes a lot of sense. And it freaking sucks. It's just, you said it. You named all the guys that are playing in front of him, and now Klay looks like, I mean, look, is he back? Is he not? Fuck, man, he looked awesome. So that's another guy that's he played 30 minutes tonight, and Klay's the guy that's been playing in the mid-20s because he's been struggling. So you're not getting minutes there. Yeah, man, it's a numbers crunch. I don't know. There's just nothing you could do. I know we know they tried to trade him right at the trade deadline, but they weren't just gonna trade him for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just, just chilling on the bench.
Just enjoying his career dwindle away.
I didn't mean to
He's
laugh.
unhappy.
Yeah.
And he should be. It's rough, a lot of pressure on my man right now.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I was gonna pull up something else. What's interesting is I saw this. So this is from our guy B-Ball, Nick at B-Ball Breakdown. Warriors altered their starting lineup 8 games ago. Bench Looney, Draymond at center. They've won 6 of 8, it's now 7 of 9, with an elite defensive rating. But their number of passes per game went down from 305 a game, which was second most in the NBA. Who passes more than them, honestly? That's what I want to know. To 270, 21st in the league. I thought this was interesting because I feel like when they just started letting Kuminga and Wiggins to a lesser degree play instead of trying to make them Andre Iguodala, that's when this team started moving a little better on offense. Part of it's putting Draymond in there because Draymond can just do all that stuff. You don't need those guys to. Draymond can be the guy who's moving the ball, telling everyone what to do all the time. But a lot of their success has just been transition or just get Kuminga going downhill. You don't need 14 passes. Let the athlete go, let him cook. That sort of thing. And I feel like it was a necessary change for this team too. And we saw it again tonight. Like Utah wasn't guarding them. They were kind of getting what they wanted. Sometimes just as simple as like, man, just play to your strengths. You don't need to make things more complicated than it needs to be.
No. They've got some great downhill guy. I mean, they have a great downhill guy right now in Kuminga, who they since has incorporated into the offense way more, right? So you got less of a less of a Looney passes to Klay, who passes it back to Looney, who passes it to Draymond, who passes it to Steph, double covered, who passes it to Wiggins, who just misses an 18-footer. Like there's less of that now. And it's just, like you said, it's way more. It's just it's simpler basketball. It's really not that. They didn't fix anything. Like they didn't create world peace with what they did. This is not that difficult. They just ran a more simple offense. Now they're not running the Luka offense. They're not running the Dallas offense.
Get to the basics though.
Yeah, right. It just let him go downhill, run a couple pick and rolls. When he doubles, go make the play 4-on-3, Wiggins dunk. Like it's that easy. Put TJD in there tonight. Pick and roll, every single freaking time. And TJD is a way better finisher than I thought. For a guy that's not 7 foot tall, he really finishes around the rim really well. for a smaller guy. So it's just, sometimes it's not that hard. They don't spam threes. I don't think they've spammed threes as much as they did last season. Really did not enjoy them last season, the way they shot the amount of threes that they did. Right now, they've got like
because it was a lot of bailout shots.
Yeah,
it was a lot of just like shooting. It was like open gym type of stuff instead of like trying to get a good shot.
Yeah, just like we'll take the 18-footer. Or I think a lot of that's just. I do think a lot of that is the rim pressure or Wiggins. I mean, not Wiggins, Kuminga, and then it opens up everything else, everything for everyone else. And I don't know, man. They look like a team that's figured some stuff out.
And it is worth noting, when you pass less, when you simplify things, you have less turnovers.
Yeah,
and that's nice too. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time they play basketball. Sometimes it's as simple as Steph's going to get a screen. Steph or Klay will set a screen. Kuminga go downhill. It's over for you,
Fun for these guys. All right, before we get to the next segment, this week's Light Years podcast is brought to you by Factor. Factor's back. Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Make eating better every day easy. Wherever tomorrow takes you, be ready with pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. You will have over 35 different options a week to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more. And there's even more to enjoy with over 55 nutrition-packed add-ons that help make your weekly meal planning even more delicious. What are you waiting for? Get started today and have a feel-good week of meals ready to go. You can have the snacks, the smoothies, and more. The smoothies are actually my favorite because I don't eat breakfast, so I just eat that, or I just drink that. Discover a wide variety of easy options for the entire day, like breakfast, midday bites, and more. Factor is the perfect solutions if you're looking for fast, upscale options done easy. So head to factormeals.com/lightyears50, 50, and use code lightyears50 to get 50% off. That's code lightyears50 at factormeals.com/lightyears50 to get 50% off.
Nice.
And should I do another one? Should I do the one? Okay. And Light Years podcast, we are brought to you by Sleeper Fantasy. Are you using the Sleeper app for daily fantasy basketball? Sam and I are. Only daily fantasy basketball. We don't talk about football anymore. So tonight, if you took the Klay Thompson and Steph Curry to hit their overs on threes, you would have won yourself some money. So if you think you know basketball, then try to turn your basketball knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app, the ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app, pick more or less on your favorite players with more stats than any other daily fantasy app. Choose two more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predicted stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code LIGHTYEARS. Get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Untouchable, so don't even ask. They were down the road and had very serious conversations about Alex Caruso, about Kelly Olynyk. Teams were calling about Andrew Wiggins. He'd been playing a lot better, and I think when it got down to it, from what I'm told, everybody asked for Jonathan Kuminga, and they essentially said, we are never trading Kuminga. He is untouchable, so don't even ask.
He's been on fire.
He's been on fire. He is the second scorer they needed. But Andrew Wiggins' recent play gave them encouragement that he can rebound into the form that he was a couple of years ago when they won the title and they decided to stand pat, even though they were down the road with a couple of key players.
So that was from NBA Today, Ramona Shelburne. Ramona, obviously very plugged in. And I think, so one, Kuminga untouchable, duh. They're not trading him unless it's for like Giannis or something like that, which like was not what they were, not what they were talking about. Two, for whatever reason, they were not super interested in moving Chris Paul. It seems more like about saving money going into next season. So it really does. The farther we get away from the trade deadline was all about Andrew Wiggins. It was them trying to decide, are we done with this guy? And let's just cut bait because we never think he's getting back. Or are we going to gamble that we can recreate 2022 Andrew Wiggins? And clearly they decided, what is the point in just dumping him midseason? We might as well see what we got. And you know what? To his credit, he's playing probably the best basketball he's played since 2022, the last few weeks. Not perfect. It's not as good as it was back then, but he is contributing winning basketball to this team. And things are trending upward for him right now. And I think that was, it does feel like that was like the big trade deadline decision. They're like, do we want to give Wiggins another shot? Because like when he's good, he's better than what they could have got the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Just based on the names we heard. The names we heard are not better than 2022 playoffs Andrew Wiggins. The thing is, 2022 playoff Andrew Wiggins was just a one-time thing, right? Like his career has been a lot of inconsistency.
They made a hell of a bet. Although sometimes I think, Sam, maybe not that risky because they were just going to trade him for expiring contracts anyway.
Yeah, it was a dumb situation.
Right. So it's not, I mean, we sat here and we talked about it. I think you and I got to the point where both of us were just like, yeah, he's not playing well, but you're not going to do any better than that. Now the CP3 one's a different story, but we're talking about Wiggins right now. Isn't he the number one guy on this team that if he's mentally there, he's so much better than when he's not mentally there? Isn't he the number one guy that solves the cloud of the trade deadline being not there anymore? Probably helps Wiggins the most, I think. Just looks like a new person.
Yeah, I mean, I think the point you're trying to make is my point, which is there's such a wide range of variance with Wiggins. Like he can be a all-star caliber contributor, or he could be the worst player in the league.
I mean,
and like I'm not. It's not hyperbole. You know, he played some disgusting basketball to open the season, and at the same time, he's playing some phenomenal basketball right now. And those swings are just so big.
I'd imagine that this is probably more of what they're going to see moving forward. And if not, they're going to have the same conversations in the offseason about trading him. Like that's kind of the I think that's kind of where we're at, right? They'll maybe package him and the Chris Paul contract and see what they can get out there. That's a lot of money. But it's nice. It makes me happy that Wiggins is back along with Klay, because you know, we talked this season about $100 million of this team was not there this season. Wiggins, Klay, Draymond, $100 million, just not there. So now they've got 30 of that back with Wiggins. Draymond's been friggin' amazing ever since he's been back from suspension. You got those two guys back, right? So it's like,
and that's the other part with Draymond. If we're being honest, Draymond is Wiggins with Draymond is worth like double his salary, right? And you can say, well, why doesn't Wiggins just always play like that? Well, if he always played like that, he'd be Paul George, you know, like he got a lot more money, right? But we do know when Draymond's locked in and kind of, simplifying his role, telling him where to be on defense and everything, Wiggins becomes such a game changer because he isn't out like physically he's got outlier tools. Like not a lot of guys can defend the way he does. They don't have the measurements he does. They're not as quick as he is. They can't do some of the things he does. And then offensively, when he plays off of Steph and Draymond, he's effective. When he has to create his own stuff, less so. But like it's one of those guys where it's like you get him around Steph and Draymond locked in, he's way better than anything you were ever going to get for a trade. And then on the flip side, if you take him out of that context, I mean, yeah, he's probably worth Tim Hardaway Jr. at most, you know? So
but that, you know, actually you said it perfectly. You said it perfectly. I mean, he's great when he's next to Draymond. But like that's a lot of players, right? It's just that Wiggins is greater than a lot of players also because he's freaking
because he does stuff that's not easy to find.
My God.
Because as annoying as it is, and like as much as it drives me insane, there are not a lot of 6'8" dudes with 7+ foot wingspans who can move their feet on the perimeter, who have defensive instinct. Like there's like if it was that easy to find them, they'd find them in the G League. But you know what you find in the G League? You find 6'4" guys. You find 6'3"
You find
guys.
Lester Quinones. I mean,
Exactly.
that's normally what you get.
You find Damian Lee. You find Juan Toscano Anderson.
Right.
Love them all, but like, there's just physical, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's limitations to them, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk Klay real quick.
Yep.
And then we'll get to the Draymond thing real quick.
You just hear me laughing. I just saw it pop up in the comments. I'm dying. But let's get to Klay because I love it. I love it.
So, friend of the show, Logan Murdoch, had an article on The Ringer today. I suggest you check it out. I thought you got some really interesting quotes from Klay and Steve Kerr specifically. But with Klay, this was probably the juiciest part. Thompson says he's open to a reduced role if it means staying with the only franchise suit up for. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll be 35 next year. Damn. At 35, coming off an ACL and an Achilles tear and still having the ability to be a really good player, maybe not the guy who scored 60 and 3/4 and scored an NBA record 37 points in a quarter, but still a great threat out there. I've modeled my game after Reggie Miller and Ray Allen, and those guys were incredibly effective into their late 30s. So I plan on kind of following that mold. I have a lot of thoughts about Klay, but I want to start with this one. I haven't enjoyed the discourse around Klay Thompson this year. I think it's been unfair on every level, but I think the thing that bothers me the most about it is it's robbed him of his humanity. He was a star. He was one of the greatest players of the last decade. How many players have pulled off what he's done in the playoffs? I mean, you might be able to name 5 players. That's it, right? Steph, LeBron, Kawhi, KD, Jokic, Giannis. He's on a short list of big game players. And yeah, I do mean that. Like, the Game 6 stuff is real. So it shouldn't surprise people that it takes him a little time to understand he's no longer that guy. And he should have everyone's kind of unwavering belief that he's going to get there, because every time you've watched Klay, has he ever struck you as a selfish individual?
Well, I mean, the play can get selfish, but I hear your point.
I think dealing with your mortality is very difficult for people. And I just, it's nice to hear him reflect on it, but I feel like more than anything, this year's been rough to watch because I can see how much it hurts him to have to deal with it. I don't feel like he's searching. I've never got the vibe like he's like, he's not the type of guy who wants to sink everyone for his own success,
I think this quote is a lot. It kind of came out of nowhere too. To me, I know he was pretty sad in the Slater interview a couple games ago about getting benched in crunch time. First of all, I don't think he's at the point of Reggie and Ray where he's just playing, maybe 10, 15 minutes off the bench. I still think he's better. We saw that tonight where he looked awesome and he should have started. He should have closed. But I do think this team, it's been a weird couple years where I do think he should have sacrificed earlier, but they couldn't have said that to him because he lost 2 years. Like, I just think that's what made this whole thing so difficult, is that honestly, man, like this should have been done before this 30 games ago. But I just think sometimes when you're on a team that you've meant so much to, you don't have anybody that's going to tell you to do that. And like you're saying, like that, I think that's fine. Like that's the point of this stuff. Like Steve's never going to tell him anything. He kind of has to figure it out himself, right? Because how can you tell someone like that to just suddenly go sit on the bench? He has to kind of admit it. And I guess kudos to him, like he has. The question is now, though, Sam, like I still think he's Like, is he?
Well, let me
is
ask
he,
you this:
Is he gonna?
how
Yeah,
many minutes a game did Ray Allen play for the Heat?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know.
Take a guess.
21.
It's a fair guess.
What was it though? What was it?
26.
Oh, 20. That's more. That's more.
Yeah. He was playing 25 to 26 minutes a night off the bench. I mean, he was always in the closing lineup with those dudes because, shocker, you want the best shooter on your team.
That actually might be Klay's best. So I actually take it back. That actually might be Klay's. Like, because I said this earlier.
Something around
ago.
that. Yeah. Could be 27, could be 23, something like that, right?
I think that's about right. Tonight he played 30. But I think there are games where he will go above that. Because he is better than just being a 26 minute. I don't know. I think the Klay discourse is weird because I think both sides are actually right. That's why. It's just I think people are so like, he still does all these things very well. He should still be playing this much on one side where it's like, I don't think so. And then the other side's like, well, he's fucking washed. Trade him. It's like, well, that's not true. You're not a better team if you get rid of Klay. Definitely not. Right. So then it becomes just two sides going at it. And it's like, man, it's kind of, you still need this guy to win. Steph knows that. You see how happy Steph was tonight? You still need him to win. I think you just can't have him try to be game 6. And I think he spent a long time. And maybe this quote right here, this is the one. Maybe this is the one where he's, this season he kind of finally admits it. And it's hard because with Steph and Draymond, of the big 3 guys, Steph and Draymond are still right there.
They didn't have both their legs fall apart. So
that's it goes back to it. That's why the Warriors can't really say anything because it's like, well, the guy lost 2 seasons. Right? Like there's this kind of, I don't know, man, there's this like pity factor, which I think is like also kind of fair because I don't know, man. Who in the NBA has ever even come off 2 injuries like this and even come back to play? I don't even know. Like what injury? Fine. KD had that one Achilles injury, but shit. ACL and Achilles?
Back to back.
Yeah. I mean,
and Reggie Miller was playing 30 minutes per game even at the end of his career at age 39.
Oh, man.
But I will say Reggie Miller went from scoring 20-ish a game back in like the 90s era when like every game was like 88, 84.
What is adjust the numbers? How much is that today? 20 points.
I mean,
32,
27, 30, probably something like that. To at the end of his career, it was 12 to 14, 15 points, So he did scale back his role. He was obviously in the lineup all the time, but it was kind of like, all right, Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, it's your show. I'll be chilling in the corner. I'll hit it if you pass to me, like doing that sort of thing, right? Yeah, Stack Shack was on that team too. Good memory, McWalters. Yeah, it does feel like I think if you take a big picture view at Klay, if you're gonna tell me like, yeah, it was like a year of him kind of figuring out the transition, it's not that big a deal. It's because we watch it every game that it's so annoying, Yeah. And that's where it's a bigger thing.
Yeah. And everyone's mad. Everyone's mad about it. I think not mad. Everyone's frustrated. Everyone's just frustrated because you hate to see a guy kind of, go, what's it called? Go down the backside of his career. There's a word, but like it's frustrating to see that in real time. And Klay's the guy that's living it out all in front of us. It's the hardest part. So most guys are, Andre, he got hurt and he was just kind of done. He just couldn't play anymore. And then everyone else is kind of, they weren't stars like Klay. They didn't mean as much as Klay. Who am I trying to compare it to? Like you could go with the Giants. Like you just watch some of these guys, they just fall apart, and you're just like, man, it's hard to see, man.
He does remind me so much of Madison Bumgarner. You don't get the playoff, like the ability to be the best player on the floor against anyone without the like downside stubbornness. Like it is kind of like the yin and the yang of the scenario, right?
Yeah, makes him who he is. It's like kind of how Draymond's so crazy. It's like
it's the same idea. Not everyone could be perfect like Steph Curry.
That is true.
Most people are not.
That is true.
So win against Utah. They're going to go back to Utah on Thursday. And I'm tempted to say that is, but I think the real Under Armour matchup of the week, Wednesday night, against the Clippers because the Warriors have been rolling. But the Clippers might be the hottest team in basketball over the last 2 months. Sadly, we have to pretend they're a contender. I don't buy them. But, you know, it is a chance to test yourself. That is a very, very good team. That is a team who will be there in the playoffs. I think you and I would both agree. On paper, it's them in Denver as the favorites in the West right now. So this is a measuring stick game for the Warriors.
All right,
It's
look
a
at you.
real
Look at
measuring
you
stick
doing
game.
the Under Armour segment and selling the Clippers. Yeah, man, they're the best team in the West in the past couple months. Like, this is a hell of bad. I mean, great. It's on national TV because every Warriors game is on national TV. They also have some payback for him. Remember Paul George hitting the game-winning three last time they played in LA? They played a couple close games when the Clippers were kind of getting their bearing with James Harden. So it's gonna be a hell of a game. The matchups are great because the Clippers play small. It works for the Warriors. They play small. It's going to be amazing. We get to watch Harden flop around. Kawhi's been amazing this year. He just got some MVP buzz. So I'd like to see. I think this is probably always the most fun. But for me, the matchup is always who the hell is going to guard Steph, right? Because they've got a lot of names, but Kawhi, PG, Harden, Russ. They don't got too many guys that can guard someone like Steph. The last time they played, I think Steph wore down at the end. Kawhi did a decent job. But that's my matchup, man. Steph in crunch time against the team. Because it's going to be a 2-point game with a couple minutes left. You know that. So I'm ready for this.
I'm with you too. Also, I'm curious to see how the Warriors defensively match up with them. Because the last couple times they played them, they were not a good defensive team. Draymond was in and out of the lineup. Kuminga wasn't a regular. I don't know if the Warriors are perfect defensively or anything, but they do kind of have the personnel to match up with the Clippers. Draymond free safety. You put Wiggins on Kawhi. You put Kuminga on Paul George. Maybe you put Klay on Harden, or you mix it up. Maybe you go Kuminga on Harden and you put Klay on Kawhi, because Klay low key is like good.
I was going to say I put Wiggins on Harden and then Klay on Kawhi. That one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's a wings versus wings matchup. They got options. You know what I mean? You also have GP2 off the bench. Pods has been scrappy on Harden at times. I'm curious to see how they match up with it, because I don't hate it for the Warriors. I don't hate the matchup. They got options.
Wings on wings.
The Warriors could go with Looney and then put Draymond at the 4 on Kawhi if they wanted to. They got some options, is what I'm saying. So it'll be fun. That's our Under Armour game of the week.
Game of the month, man. That's a great matchup. Whew.
Let's play this Draymond clip real quick.
Steve Kerr back for that game, by the way?
Should be, but I don't have their travel schedule.
Honestly, I think me getting suspended helped in a weird way, because
What's wrong with this guy?
JK is taking off, and that has kind of set the stage for this team. Bonafide number 2 option on our team.
He's feeling himself.
Now you got different things. You're able to figure out different things that we can go to. Our offense don't look the exact same.
Yeah, he's feeling it.
We got different things that we're going to.
This is a professional podcaster.
Yeah, man. Look at him. Look at him go.
It's just been kind of plug and play since then, figuring the pieces out. So,
This guy is hilarious.
not that I wanted to get suspended.
Oh, Koya, throw that back in there.
It kind of helps.
I did this for you, JK.
He's a martyr.
And now you add me back into the fray. You add GG back from his injury. CP will be
Comedy.
Now you got those pieces coming back that you can rely on. But it's not just us. It's everybody who's stepping. Lester, Gee, it's everybody who's going.
Oh, Guy Santos shout out.
What a funny dude. He's locked in. The comments are saying arrogant Draymond means he's locked in. I agree. He's locked in.
He's not totally wrong, if being honest with ourselves.
God.
They did it did allow Does Steve Kerr give JK the space to break out like this if Draymond's healthy? Probably not. Like, yeah, they were 500 without Draymond. Might be one game under 500 in that spell, which, like, all things considered, is better than I would have thought. But I don't know if JK gets to play 25 to 30 minutes every night if Draymond's there. And then he just played too well that Steve doesn't have a choice. It just turns into Steve can't fight it and saying he doesn't want to fit it in. He has to make adjustments that way.
Butterfly effect is what I'll go with. Of course,
that's a better way to put it.
Things are going well. No, I'm just things are going well, so he's gonna justify all of these things because of whatever. It's fine. I think it's funny. I think the one that he probably didn't say that matters the most is, Draymond, you came back and you're playing like a freaking normal person again. Like you're not kicking people, you're not punching people, you're not constantly bitching. Like, actually, the comments just said it. So sorry for Matt. He just typed what I was trying to say, but I just remember that Sacramento game where he fouls De'Aaron Fox and he's bitching to the refs, and then he takes De'Aaron Fox out to the half court line, gets another foul, and then sits down when he's in foul trouble. And this is like in the third quarter. The Warriors are up by like 15. And they slowly lose the lead. It's just like complete emotional meltdown early this season. What are you doing? Since he's been back, he that's really the biggest thing. Draymond, they need you to be Draymond, not to be a whatever you were. Like, he was just a emotional wreck to start the season. So unhinged. McWalter is saying, yeah, he's unhinged, man. I don't know what.
It's like, yeah, dude, it was a bad call. That doesn't mean you can powerbomb a dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like bad calls. There's going to be 10 games a year where you're like, I have no fucking clue what the refs are doing. And honestly, in this NBA, it might be 25 games a year.
Yeah.
But the point stands. The point stands.
Yeah. So you, Draymond, you got better. So he wouldn't say you. That's my new favorite emoji.
I've noticed.
All right.
I get that. You fucking texted to me like 5 times a week at this point.
Dude,
you do the editing tonight. You.
I don't think so my buddy was like, we were at the Super Bowl party. He's like, oh, so your podcast is cool. You know how you do the editing? I'm like, guy, I've never, ever in my life done any editing. He starts laughing. I was like, man, I leave that up to Samuel and Tim. And the good guys, the smart guys. So, all right, to the Goons. Are we going to the Goons?
Let's go, Goons. Let's get guy Paratosh up here first. Hitting lead off.
Hey guys,
Stuff, I'm sure.
What's up, man?
Okay, lots of things. First of all, that Draymond quote. I think he's absolutely the most elite gaslighter there is in the entire NBA. Like, I don't know that anybody else was like that. I remember when he came back, like, after hitting Jordan Poole, he had that whole video, and there was an absolutely elite line there, something like hurt people, or something like that. I don't know, guys. So I'm kind of going to need his gaslighting skills to convince my manager that I'm actually working on whenever I'm not. But anyway, I was going to say, regarding Klay, I think he just needed time, like you said, to figure out. And Sam, I appreciate you saying that it's we forget the humanity of it, where he's been such an elite competitor that it's going to be hard for anyone to accept that they're not what they used to be. And especially if that dude is Klay Thompson, who averaged 26 in an NBA Finals and looked like the best player on the court with Curry and Kawhi on the court as well. So I think he just needed time, and I'll give credit to Steve Kerr that he let him get there by himself, because I don't think it would have worked if Steve Kerr tried to convince him. So, like, it would be patronizing, to be honest. So for that, I need to give Steve Kerr credit. And I think it just bodes well for Klay himself, because playing him 38 minutes a game was doing a disservice, not just to him. I mean, not just to the team, but also to him, because he just didn't have his legs then to hit shots when he needed to. So I don't think it's a bad thing that I think he's realizing that it's not a bad thing to be a role player at this age. And if we can get him back for like 20 or 15 to 20 million as a role player, that's better than any role player in the league. I'll wager that. So lots more. Also, one last thing is, Sam, I know you said no Niners talk, but last part you remember Kyle saying that it may be a blowout, and I said it's not going to be a blowout with Mahomes there. So I just wanted to remind you of that.
Fine.
Sorry,
Tosh, I'll see you later. See you later. We're not doing that right now, my man.
Goodbye. Maybe
Tashion,
next week.
what's up, man?
Maybe next year.
I wasn't going to be the one to troll because I already did my trolling in the office because I was going to get slandered for the entire week if Mahomes didn't save my ass. But anyway, I think I think it doesn't really. I don't really care about the humanity part when it comes to Klay because if you don't really care about the humanity of Klay, then you really just didn't watch the Warriors for the past 10 years and seeing him grow from the Klay ups and him trying to grow from the playoff failures and then him getting 37 a quarter and him on one ankle, by the way, because of J.R. Smith is a dumbass and just gave him a high ankle sprain in 2018. So if you don't understand the humanity, then whatever, you just don't really care. And then we'll figure it out when you leave and bandwagon another team. But I just don't understand why you try to say bench Klay when all metrics say that when you bench Klay, get him away from Steph and Klay, Steph and Draymond, then it just doesn't work. Why are you just trying to put him with non-shot creators with Looney and Saric?
I appreciate the
It just
point.
doesn't make sense.
And I do think, Tajan, appreciate you, by the way. It's the biggest issue with getting Klay going is this team doesn't have enough shooting. I know they hit shots tonight, but when we get to the playoffs, what's a lineup of Steph, Pods, Wiggins, Kuminga, and Draymond going to shoot? That looks like 4 dudes who won't take a 3 in a playoff game with Steph Curry.
Oh, pause. What, Wiggins come back? Nah, I hear you.
It's and it's not like they can't shoot, but it's Klay's willing to put it up. I'll put it that way, and that matters. So it's just he does matter in that standpoint. Yeah, I do know Pod shot the ball better tonight, and he's getting there.
Well, you're saying Klay's threat though, that still is gravity. Right? We talk about Steph's gravity all the time, but Klay's gravity. I agree. I just I've been the guy that's kind of been saying Klay, could come off the bench a little more. But again, I'm talking about that when he's taking just terrible shots, especially in crunch time of games. But
I also I don't care if he starts or comes off the bench. That never mattered to me. I'm with you. Totally. It's more about 25 minutes so he doesn't get his legs worn down, and you're probably throwing him out there in crunch time because you need the shooter anyway. So
yeah, the worn down stuff I think we've never talked about with Klay ever, or we've never thought about it because it's Klay's always been 38 minutes a game. It's light, it's easy, 38 minutes, 2-way, and that's just not. I mean, man, that's just not possible. I mean, Draymond, same thing. He's got a knee issue going on, right, and stuff. So that's where Kuminga and Pods and Wiggs. Those guys can. I mean, damn, man, Pod's playing 30 plus minutes a game is crazy. You don't even look tired. Guy's in an insane shape. That's the guy where I just.
Dude turns 21 this month.
I know, but still.
Yeah,
it's insane. He's playing so hard. He's playing so hard. 30 minutes a game.
What's up, man?
What's up? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So I have 2 things real quick. I'll start off with the positive, and then the other one I want to ask y'all about something. So I was watching the Jazz broadcast because I have League Pass and out in the Bay right now. So I was watching it, and it's funny because at the beginning they were kind of just doing, every broadcast seems a little biased, but then by the end they were just how many times have we seen Steph and Klay do this? This is so amazing. They just turn into fanboys, especially when Klay hit the 1-leg shot, and it was just really nostalgic. It was good to hear, and it's just nice to hear that when they not because sometimes when I watch the Blazers or the Rockets, they don't want to say nothing because they salty as hell because you know why. But it's nice when you get the real reaction where they're just in awe of these players. You know what I'm saying? They commentate the NBA every night and they're still damn, look at the splash bros. And then the thing that I was gonna say, I don't want to be too negative, but I think we've been able to skate by. But for instance, we can't do this against the Clippers where we play Sarge and he's not making a shot because he's just a nothing when he's not making a shot. And I get it that they try to, but at the end of the day, that he's a minimum player, and sometimes you need to sit him down. And I think they need to do a better job of that, especially because TJD makes such an impact when he comes in.
Yeah, I mean, great call. I think we said it last episode, but Saric is the guy who every year there's a guy that they play 15 to 20% too much. Like you just like him if he played 5 less minutes. And this year it starts, right?
They might want to move him to a Spates role. I don't know. 12 minutes tonight is like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it might be 7 minutes too much. It's just first half, 5 minutes. Are you making your shot? Whatever, right? It's just the type of
Are you cooking? Yeah.
Yeah. Is this the type of game for you? Do they have a lot of guards? Do they have a lot of guards playing on this type of game? Yeah. Yeah, we'll go on the next one. I bitch a lot about the vet guys, vet min guys, so I think I'm good off this one.
Ebony, what's up?
Nothing much, man. I just enjoying a good win. Solid win. I guess my only question, I'm not gonna repeat everything else, but my only question is where do we land at the end of the regular season? Because I've been seeing that a lot. Like, how much do we believe in what's happening? I mean, JK was terrible in the first half. Like, why do you keep driving if they keep blocking your shot? But like, for the most part, I mean, yeah, I guess that's just my biggest question. Like, I could see this lasting long enough for them to make it to, I want to say, the 7th seed, 7 or 8. If as long as Wiggins is Wiggins, I'd say 7 or 8. But that's my biggest question.
I think they can get to 6 if you can promise me Draymond can play with this level of energy the rest of the way, which is a very tough promise because you're asking a 6'6" dude to play center like it's the playoffs for 31 more games.
So is Wiggins, so then my follow-up is Wiggins and Draymond the only 2 factors, or what are the other factors that play into them staying this good?
The problem with this team is that they have so many guys not named Steph Curry that aren't superstars that everyone is the problem. It could be the problem, right? So it's like they kind of need Wiggins and Klay to play well to go with Draymond not self-combusting, and then you want Kuminga to also keep his leap. So it's like you kind of need all those guys there because they just don't have that second superstar. One question that I have that's curious too is we haven't talked about this at all is what happens when Chris Paul's coming back? Like what happens then?
I think
leadership.
he takes the Iggy roll off the bench until the playoffs, and then Pods gets benched, or not benched, but his minutes go down to about 20, 25, more of like a burst of energy off the bench type of deal. But if it's not that and Pods is completely benched, then they might be cooked the first round. Unfortunately, I don't think they can do it without Pods like the rest of the season. Like if they tried to bench him just because he's a rookie in the first round, then they might be a first round out.
Yeah, the Chris Paul Sarge lineups off the bench might be tough. But back to the where they end up. So they're 10th place, game and a half in front of the Jazz, and 4 games behind the Suns, who are currently in 6th place. Right above the Suns are the Pelicans in 5th. If I had to guess, the Pelicans would probably be the one that would fall I'm not buying the Pels either. Yeah, right.
Well, could they catch the Suns in like, I don't know. I guess like I'm thinking about like what the Suns schedule looks like. Like
we talked about it in the last episode, and I really do think just looking at the way the West is shaking out, 48 wins is probably kind of like the low end of what you need to get that 6th seed. So what we're really talking about is like, can they go 22-9 the rest of the way? Doable, but I to the point we were talking about, like I need to know that like Draymond's going to be locked in and healthy because they can't afford another 2 and 5 7-game spell, or like they go 8 or 9 games where they only win one time. Like they don't have enough wiggle room to have another one of those going forward. Basically, they need to like be consistent because you're going to lose even when you're consistent a little bit. But like if they're consistent, they'll probably win 22 out of 31.
Well, last question. So a lot of talk about Klay coming off the bench, taking a smaller role, or whatever that looks like. Maybe not coming off the bench, but smaller role. Who gets those minutes in the playoffs if it's not Klay going for 30 plus minutes? All right, y'all have a good one.
Appreciate you.
Well, it ain't Moses Moody. That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure.
It's a lot of pods. Hopefully, it's not a lot of Chris Paul, but definitely a lot of pods.
Yeah, I also, and
I think it'll be more Chris Paul than I want.
For Klay, that will be really tough. I do think they're going to ride with Klay if it is the postseason. I think part of playing 82 games in the regular season is that, dude, like Klay just shouldn't be playing 35 minutes anymore in the regular season. Yeah. But if he's playing like 28, then look how gassed do you think he was against the Lakers last postseason, right? Like
I think it's tricky because adrenaline's real, but like you see it when he's short. Like his shots are short, right? Like he's just Klay's never gonna be like, I'm tired, coach, take me out. No, he'd rather be out there for 40 minutes shooting like 2 for 35 because that's all he knows, and that's okay. They really do need to manage him like the Spurs did Manu Ginobili. Like Manu. I always thought Manu should have played more because he's so fucking good, right? But like a lot of the reason they played him in the role they did was they're just like, man, I don't know if your knees can handle 35 minutes. But we'll save that for game 6 and game 7. Yeah, and honestly, the Warriors did that with Iggy forever, right? Yeah. Like it's not like Andre wasn't one of the best players on the team. It was like, how do we manage your body so that you're peaking when we need you?
They've done it with Steph his whole career, pretty much ever since Steve Kerr was been. Like Steph has never been over 34 minutes in the regular season. I mean, we all bitch and moan about, hey, close the quarter, come in earlier in the fourth and all that stuff. And I'm the number one guy that does it. But they are very much 34 minutes in the regular season. They will never go to 38, 39, 40. And you see a lot of these other guys do, but Steph is smaller and Steph actually tries to play defense, right? Like that's not what a lot of these superstars do. So he gets worn down a little faster. And Klay definitely tries to play defense. He plays defense very hard. Very hard. Even though he's not as good as anymore on defense, he plays defense very hard.
Honest basketball.
Absolutely honest basketball. Right on, guys.
What's up, McWalters? It's been a minute.
Oh, how's it going? Another great win. We're on a roll here.
We miss you calling in.
Oh, well, I was suspended like Dre, so, I was fighting Andy in the background and he put me on hiatus now. No, I like the standings talk we had. I mean, when you look at it, it seems like there's a lot of teams that are very catchable. And I think the big one to remember is we did miss a few of those games because of the unfortunate passing away of Deja. And if you look at losses, we're only 3 losses behind Phoenix. Look at losses. Losses is the most important thing because we can make up wins because we have a different amount of games we're playing. But if we're only 3 losses around that, an extended, unexpected winning streak because we get lucky in a few games that we haven't gotten lucky in makes up those 3 games. And then we're right there in that 5 range. If we can sustain what's going on right now. Oh my God, there's noise going on in the background. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, if Dre is for real and not, going all crazy, then,
It really is that simple, right? Like, are we going to get an engaged Draymond and then just downstream from that, engaged Wiggins and everyone acting like professionals the rest of the way? Or are they going to be like, all right, we're back in the play-in. We're going to just trick away some games because I'm bored in March,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like you just don't really know what's going on, and yeah, I hear that too. We'll find out what's going on with that in a second. But video games are fun. But anyways, it's crazy. It's crazy that like that's what we're dependent on is like Dre coming in here and being like, hey, like what's going on here? Like what? Oh, hey, I decided to lock in a couple months early. It's not playoffs yet. I've locked in now. Like when Dre locks in, he's showing why he's a Hall of Famer, right? Why is he elite? Because he turns a guy from Andrew Wiggins into being like what Andy was saying earlier in the pod of like, okay, what's up with his career too? Like being a borderline, like very valuable, like all-star level person. That's the effect Draymond can have on someone when he is locked in and he's not busy on his own agenda or on a high horse somewhere or just completely unhinged out of his mind. I mean, for all I know, he's, going to get whatever's supposed to be going on to the person I have in the background there, get some proper meds and, maybe he's all ready to go. And that's what you need. And, when you don't have that, you have what's going on in the background here. And that's what we can't really have going on with Dre. And that's where I'm hopeful that he's turned it around, right? That like he has that going, and then hopefully that Chris Paul's coming back doesn't break that up, right? Because we have all this good momentum going, and we bring back his slowing down of the game. I just worry that that's going to have an effect, but maybe it's just a blip, and maybe they'll just like sit him and be like, "Hey, that wasn't working. Sit." I'd hope Kerr would do that. I'm not confident, but I'd hope so.
Yeah, Mick Walters, appreciate you calling in. Have a great evening, sir. Good luck with the parrot in the background.
Good luck with the parrot is crazy. J1 point is funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should end it there. Good times. Guys, we'll be back. We'll be back at the end of the first half of the season. Appreciate everyone. Have a great evening.